Hey everyone, so Magic just released its first chapter of the Zendikar storyline for free online, which is wonderful and has me really excited as to where the storyline is going to go from here. And in this excitement, I read over the first episode called In the Heart of the Skyclave by A.T. Greenbald right now. I just finished reading it a couple hours ago. I read it twice over just to get the depth and all the little bits and pieces of information and characterization that I could have missed. And I really want to talk about it with you guys. And this isn't scripted, I'm kind of just doing an off-the-cuff kind of thing. And if it goes well, let me know, and I'll do this for all the subsequent chapters with better lighting and better recording, because I'm recording this with my phone right now, because I did not have time to set up a whole thing. So let me know how it goes. And I want to start right now first as to how this story serves as a first chapter, not only in the Zendikar storyline, but in all of Magic's storyline moving forward. Because, as a lot of us know, tons of people stopped caring about the Magic storyline after the War of the Spark novel, and how horrendously bad that was. And after they were put behind paywalls, behind physical products or online PDFs in the novel fashion, it became really difficult to continue on. So this piece actually serves a really good function as a starting off point for anybody coming back into the Magic storyline, or anybody who chooses to start with this particular chapter. Because it introduces Nissa and Nahiri in the first conversational set piece, in the first act of this. And it sets them up bickering with each other, kind of playfully talking and arguing a little bit, competing with each other, racing towards a couple of stone peaks. And it actually touches upon what the characters did in the past, with Nahiri's inability and guilt over the horrible state that Zendikar's in right now, and Nissa with her failures on Ravnica and just all of her failures with the Eldrazi and all that. And while on this specific chapter it serves as a backdrop to how these characters interact with each other, how they know each other, and kind of their own internal struggles, it gives any reader, from a meta perspective, things to look into if they're interested with a particular character. For example, if somebody read this and loved Nissa and the way she was portrayed, and are curious as to what's giving her that internal turmoil, or what exactly happened, they now know what specific planes to look back at, or to look into. And that's wonderful, and it's a very good thing to do on a first chapter, and I'm very glad the author actually... I don't know if they did it on purpose, but I hope they did, and it's a really good idea. Moving on from the introduction, I want to go across into these little quick summary of what happened. So Nahiri and Nissa kind of get together, and they're looking for this MacGuffin thing, that they don't even know what it is yet, to save Zendikar from the Royal, and from all of the devastation that happened after the Eldrazi. And Nahiri wants to revive the core monuments and the kind of like hidden ruins, and revive them back to how they used to be, and to get rid of the Royal. Nissa's trying to do the same thing, but she is going about it on a very different perspective. And that, I think, is the crux of where this story shines. It continuously reaffirms the guilt that Nahiri feels over her inaction as the protector of Zendikar. And then, on the other hand, you have the grief and the loss that Nissa feels with her home. And it's a really, really good dynamic, because while Nahiri is trying so hard to fix all of the failures she's been through, Nissa is taking a more defensive measure, where she just wants to preserve what's already there. She doesn't want to make things any worse than they already are. And this ultimately leads to the final act, after they find the MacGuffin and they realize that this thing could potentially stop the Royal, but in the process kill all of the life that Nissa holds so sacred in Zendikar. And that little dynamic there, and it's told, and I believe it's roughly 13 pages, so about 3,000 words. And it's told really well through the way they each solve problems across the little storyline. And that's actually going to pivot real quick to the part... I'm moving a little quickly because I'm not sure how long this video should be, so if you want me to go a little more in-deep next time I do this, if you guys want to, just let me know again. But these two separate ideologies that they share are a very good way to reflect Zendikar's idea of a party. As in the card spoilers, we've seen the party mechanic displaying how reflects a D&D party going on adventures, and that's kind of the overall feel that Zendikar's always had, is this adventuring plane where you want to go in depth and go explore and go find things. And that's really reflected well by the way Nissa and Nahiri both solve specific problems as you go along. Because you had a scene where they were attacked by this Feldegar, and they both had to work together to solve that problem. Later on, they run into a trap, and Nahiri, being the steadfast warrior that she is, rushes in and Nissa has to stop her, and they learn how to disarm this trap with a centipede monster. And that's really good. It's a very good characterization through action instead of directly saying, which is wonderful, and I'm so happy this is in here. And that's moving on real quick to the dialogue of this. This story beat has really good dialogue in the sense that it isn't heavy-handed. Yeah, there's like one or two pieces that are very heavy-handed. But it tells you their personalities in a way that isn't outright stating it. Like, when you hear Nissa speak, you can tell she's constantly second-guessing herself, showing restraint because of those internal feelings she has. While Nahiri is just very quick, rapid sentences with periods, and I think just periods is all she speaks about. She has like 1 or 2 exclamation marks. Very direct. She knows what she wants to say, and she says it really quickly. While Nissa, on the other hand, has the more reserved, as I said beforehand. And I want to touch up on Jace in a second, because the way he's characterized is wonderful. But the dialogue here serves a very good function because it also reflects, and this is going to sound weird, but the dialogue in this piece really hits at the color identity of each of these planeswalkers. And I love that. It's a little silly talking about it, but yes, Nissa is like green, and this displays a lot of green where she values this life in these elementals that the other people can't understand. Like, she straight up tells Jace that he can't understand because he's never had a connection with somebody, which, sick burn. But Jace's mono blueness and his strive for knowledge is really well put in his inability to stay on task and listen to Nissa, and instead tries to just immediately research. Like, okay, we have this, how do we use it, how do we research this? And I love that. That's me in a nutshell. I love researching. And it's told very well through Jace's dialogue, and I love that. And about Jace, that's a good time as any to talk about him. I like how he has, I believe, only about 3.5 pages of Jace in here. And I like it. I like the fact they show him trying to slow down and attempt to listen to Nissa and to communicate as a friend better. But he doesn't immediately solve that. And that's great. So they introduce the problem of like, okay, Nissa and Jace have a really hard time on their own merits communicating and making connections. Nissa, for her own loneliness and just not wanting to mess anything up any further, it comes from that grief that she feels at all the things she's lost. Jace, on the other hand, just wants to go research like crazy, look into the answer right away without actually slowing down. And their dialogue really well fits that. And with Jace, I like it because it introduces the problem, it shows that he's trying to resolve the problem, but it doesn't solve the problem. And that's great. And as a first introductory chapter, that's a very good thing to do. And I give it a lot of credit for that. Where Jace hasn't solved the problem. And he's probably not going to solve the problem because he's an imperfect human being. He might solve the problem later on at some point, but not now. And that's what's important, that's what matters. And that is a sign of a good writer, as I've analyzed this so far. And from here, I think that's all of the major topics that I wanted to talk about. Oh, one more thing. Gideon. The role that Gideon plays in this piece, I think, isn't going to stop here. I think this is going to stake with all of the Gatewatch members and even more people. Because, as we all know, Gideon died, he sacrificed himself to the Gatewatch and everything. And Nissa repeatedly introduces the term, what would Gideon do? Because she wants to look up, she looks up at Gideon and wants to more actively be like him to solve the problems that she feels she has. And this is something that's very relatable. We all at some point looked at somebody above us and asked ourselves, like, they're great. How do we act more like them to solve our own problems? And that's good. And I'm really curious to see where that's going to go, because this is something that is said multiple times throughout the entire article. And I think it's going to pay off somewhere, and I really hope it pays off somewhere. I'm going to speculate that this is setting the seeds, sowing the seeds for, as we all think, of Gideon becoming the next mono-white god of Theros. Because the way that Nissa's talking about him, well, it is a very friendly, like, how do we honor our fallen friend? How do we behave more like him? I could very much see Gideon's story spreading from all these planeswalkers and everybody on Theros. And I could really see Gideon being a god if Theros works the way I understand it to work, and enough people look up at Gideon like this and try to see the Gideon in themselves. And that's a very good thing to have. So I think that's everything. Yeah, that is everything that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, I loved it, and this is it's a really good thing, and I'm really hoping it continues to be like this. And it's just such a good sign. I'm just very happy that Wizards did this. Anyway, so I'm going to just upload this like it is. I don't think I'm going to edit it or anything. It's just meant to be an off-the-cuff discussion. Be in the comments. Just let me know what you thought about this. If you liked it, if you didn't, any bits and pieces you didn't like all that much. One thing I didn't like was just Nahiri. I didn't like Nahiri at all. Like, it's why I haven't really spoken that much about her. The entire storyline through Nahiri just seemed like such an asshole. And I've never read any lore with Nahiri in it at all. I have no exposure to Nahiri as a character before this. So let me know, has she always been like this? Because it was kind of, it's kind of a pain. Like, she sounds like a really angsty human being, but she's like, what, millennia years old? And I feel like she would have grown out of this by now? I don't know. I could just be misunderstanding her character at some point. So let me know, because Nahiri was just... she's a real tough nut to crack when it comes to just getting to know her and liking her as a character. Because so far, she has lost me entirely. Anyway, thanks for listening to me blabber on for however many minutes this was. I've lost count at this point. Anyway, thanks. See you all next time.